Umbretta found me here on Bakehouse. We connected a little bit after I moved to Miami, because I lived in Key West for 6 months, and then I moved here to Miami. And then we met at the Bakehouse, probably through one of the people that works here that knows my work and knows Umbretta, and was like, well, Umbretta, I think you need to meet Beatriz, because her work's about coral reef and you're all about the ocean. And then that was the bridge. Bakehouse united us. But back in 2014, when I was in Brazil, I applied for the art sale residency, which I didn't get. And when I told that to Umbretta, I think it was 14 or 15, I don't remember exactly when it was. It was so serendipitous, because now, like, this semester, basically 4 out of 6 projects that I'm doing in 6 months are with her. So I don't know, it's just our intentions and the subject matter that we love, and the ocean and everything, brought us together to create many projects. So we started talking about the Hollywood show 2 years ago. 2.5 years ago. I think it was even before the pandemic. And the work that I presented there has been in my mind for the last 5 years. And it came about because of another work. So the way that my practice works is, every time I make an installation or I create something, this something leads me to another something. I don't know if you can relate to that in your practice, but right? So for me, it's one thing always derives the other, and all of the works are connected. So the concept for Into the Great Dying, the Steps to Take, came about in 2017, when I was the project manager and the art director of this project that we used to have in Brazil that occupied transitional spaces. So me and my 2 partners, we would find places in Sao Paulo that were closed off or temporarily noticed or wasn't functioning anymore. And we would bring in about 30 artists to create specific site-specific installations for these places. And then after 3 or 4 editions of this project, we were invited to create a project in the catacombs of the municipal theater of Sao Paulo. That place was closed for the public for 50 years. And it was a magnificent place. And it was arches and saloons that you went in and out. It was completely mesmerizing. And the acoustics inside there is crazy. But that was closed for so long that they wanted to do a big event with art and liquor, obviously. So they invited my group to create a project for them. And we did. We invited 17 different artists. We gave beautiful budgets to everyone. We paid everyone very well. And we created this project called the Red Screen. So my work, because I was the art director in the project, but I was also an artist. So I would have to do my project and take care of everyone else's project. So in that sense of community and the idea of this site-specific installation for a place that was a catacomb that was closed for 50 years, I created this box that kind of served like a standing, what's the name of that? Casket. I'm very gloomy. Even though I'm so joyous as a person, my work is very, very gloomy. Like, it talks about death all the time. So just a side note. So I created this box where I took, I don't know, maybe 1,500 individual sculptures that I made with air drying clay, and I hot glued it all over the box. So you entered the box and you closed yourself off, and you look back, you were surrounded by corals, like, and the floor was sand, and this box was black. It was black, and then you entered, and there was light and all of the corals around you. And because this exhibition was funded by a liquor company, we had a lot of events inside of that place, and a lot of crazy drunk people inside of the exhibition. So every time a girl or a boy or a man would go inside and close themselves off inside of my box, they had, you know, their drink in their head, in their hand, their purse in their other hand, and they would do this inside of my box to look at the corals. They would destroy it. It would fall off because it was just hot glued, it was delicate. And the face, the expression of these people every time they came out of the box was crazy to me. It was like me tapping inside of a place of them that made them feel so bad they wanted to hide, or they didn't want anyone to know what was happening inside of that box. So that feeling to me was everything. It was such you know like a light bulb in my head. I was like, oh my God, that's how they're feeling about destroying my work that wasn't purposely made for destruction. What happens when I create a work that is purposefully just for destruction? And that was the leeway for me to create Into the Great Dying. And then I presented a tiny variety, a tiny moment of this work before I moved here, with a group of girls, of women that I had in Brazil, that we used to discuss our practice, all artists and producers from the art world. We did an exhibition together. And in the entrance of the exhibition, I placed all of my sculptures on the floor. And if you wanted to enter the gallery, you would have to cross it. How would you cross it? That is up to you. And a lot of people destroyed it. A lot of people tried not to destroy it. Some people jumped over it. Some people didn't even enter the room because of the sculptures in the opening. And that for me was even more so revealing of human behavior. And that was the tip of the iceberg for me to create this gigantic piece that I did in the Hollywood Art and Culture Center. Because I wanted to see I wanted really to let loose and not have any rules and see how people would behave inside there. And it was crazy to me because it was the most heartbreaking, most overwhelming work I've ever done in my life. It was destroyed in 40 minutes. And even though people knew what it was or didn't, they didn't care. They didn't even notice what was under their feet while they were stomping around the room. And that work is a mirror for the action of the macrocosm inside of the world. Inside of this tiny little room with 2,000 pieces, I saw the act of the whole humanity upon the planet. And that blew me away. It blew me away so hard that I left the room, and I left the whole gallery. I left the museum for 40 minutes because I couldn't deal with it. And it was crazy to me because it only took one kid to go inside of the room. All of the adults in the beginning of the exhibition didn't want to go in. They were hiding behind their political, beautifully done mask, And then one kid, a 2-year-old, entered the room and started to destroy everything. And what happened? All the adults went in and toppled over the whole installation in less than 40 minutes. And there are so many layers of realization that work has caused me that I'm still digesting it until now, First of all, we use the youth as an excuse, and that is horrible as a behavior of adults. We are always, let's educate the youth. Let's look at the youth. Like, let's give the youth the tools. But the youth have the tools. Who doesn't have the tools? The adults. We're not talking to them. They are the ones who most destroyed. The kids were playing inside of the room. They were in their sandbox. They were not purposefully destroying with intent and pleasure. All the adults were the ones who destroyed. And that for me was the most sad. It was so sad. It was the saddest realization I've ever had in my life. Why do we use the youth as an excuse or as an opening to destroy the whole planet? We're not looking at ourselves. We only want to educate the youth, but what about ourselves? Are we not educated? Don't we want to be educated? Don't we want to be better for the planet? Or our excuse is that we're too old?